That's it. Great. All right.
Okay, well, maybe I guess I'll call to order and start the meeting. First order is roll call, and I'll start, and we can go around. John Tantum, I volunteered to be chair of the subcommittee on Cove Road resident.
Glenn Isaacson, sitting in for Larry Store.
Keith Fagan, town resident.
Peter Mark, city council member. I'm just gonna excuse myself and get a pen because mine doesn't work.
Okay.
Julian Fulweiler with Stetson Engineers, design team for the Beach Road Stabilization project.
Adrian Cormier, both with the city project management team.
Great. Tony Boyd, Public Works Director. And Robert, I can chime in that Robert excused himself from being here. He wasn't able to make it, but he is joining us on Zoom. So yeah, that's City Manager Robert Zadley.
Robert, can you hear us? Are you on audio?
Yeah, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, can you hear us okay, Robert?
Yes, yeah, you're coming through loud and clear, thanks.
Great.
And I'm Chris Murray, assistant engineer at the City of Belvedere, Public Works Department.
Peter, were you out when the call came around to your seat?
You know, I said it, Peter.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah. All right.
Okay, well, the next item is the approval of the minutes from our prior meeting on February 26th, which are in the packet here and were distributed earlier. Are there any comments on those?
Happy to make a motion to approve it.
I'll second. In favor?
Aye.
The minutes were approved from the February 26th meeting. Next is the matter at hand to talk about the Beach Road Stabilization Project and the bids and reviewing the bids and discussing those and hopefully come up with a recommendation for the city council. So maybe Tony, I'll let you take the vote.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, and thank you everybody for being here once again in your time. And this meeting is a follow-up from our last meeting, which really introduced you all to the plans for the project and the context for it. This meeting is to present the selection process to you all and basically request a recommendation that the city council approve the contract for the project and award the contract to a contractor. And so what I'll be doing is I'll walk you through the selection process, and we are I think it's fairly informal. We can discuss and ask questions as we go, and yeah, happy to fill you in on any of the details. All right, so to start with, I'd like to clarify in my memo that, because I didn't point this out in the memo, this contract is for the sheet pile installation portion of the project, which is the main, the sort of the meat of the project. There is another segment which has to do with the private properties on Beach Road, number 16 to number 28 Beach Road, where there are gangways and utilities on the properties there that will need to be removed for the installation of the sheet piles. And that's a project in itself. And so that will be a separate contract. There's a little bit of possible confusion with the numbers that amount was included in the engineer's estimates. And that's not really, I didn't really clarify that or point that out in the memo. And yeah, we can look at it more closely, but Exhibit C, the engineer's estimate will show that where that line was included in the total cost of the estimate versus the cost of this proposal. And yeah, if need be, I could also, it would take me a few minutes, but at some point I could pull up some of these documents onto the screen if it's helpful. And Robert might find that useful. Okay. So the RFP was posted on February 20th. There was a lot of interest, it seemed to us, with 58 downloads of the RFP materials. It gives some indication, I guess, of all the contractors out there and who are kind of perusing the site and interested to see what projects are going on. That was followed by a mandatory site meeting with prospective contractors. So any contractor who wanted to submit a bid would have to be at the site meeting. There were 14 companies represented there. And the deadline for questions following that was March 9th. We received 4 questions in writing and responded to in an addendum. There were 2 addenda issued. The first addendum was a change to the insurance requirements in the contract. So that basically provided the details of that. And then addendum 2 provided details on the pre-bid meeting, the questions received, the responses to those questions, and also a clarification of some of the contractors' responsibilities during the project related to their workflow and coordination. Bid deadline was March the 19th, and that was attended by 4 different contractors' representatives, as well as a union representative.
A union from?
Level 3 operators. It's not uncommon that they show up knowing this type of project.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, I wouldn't have known that. And then, so, and it was fairly straightforward. Each sealed envelope was opened, and the bid amount was read out loud. People, took notes and then asked some questions. Most of the questions, I think all the questions were.
So they opened up their bids amongst all the other competitors?
Yeah, so basically we received the bids at a table. We had a little table stationed next to the door there. As they came in, they handed in their bid. And then at the designated time, which was 11:30 on that day, we declared that bids were now closed. And then we stood up at a table and opened each bid individually, pulled out the documents and read out the number to the contractors.
Is that the requirement? Is that a requirement?
It is I'm sorry, to speak. Yeah, that is the procedure for public opening.
It sort of takes away your ability to negotiate with anybody.
It does, and the law, it's a legal requirement for public agencies.
Okay.
And the possibility to negotiate is actually extremely limited. I mean, the amount on the bid, if the city is to accept a bid, it has to justify not accepting the lowest bid, basically. If it's not going to accept the lowest bid, there needs to be a reason in, that the city would do that. I mean, it's very seldom that a city would want to not accept the lowest bid.
But is there, I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
No.
Just a couple questions. So you went from 58 downloads, which I guess I know is a gross number, to 14 visits and 4 meeting the deadline.
Yeah.
Did anybody come in after the deadline? Which I know you need to exclude. I'm saying, did anybody come in just for information?
No, nobody came in after.
Is that normal, or why would you think you go from 58 to 14? I understand that 58 to 14, but 14 to 4 seems a larger jump than I would expect.
Off the bat, and then I'll
I'll
let you, Adrian, chime in, who's definitely kind of ridden a few more of these rodeos than I have. But I think one of the main reasons was there was a specific piece of equipment that was specified in the RFP, and that was this silent piler, this Geiken machine. And there are very few, if any, I think in Northern California, companies that provide that. So that was another thing, is that all of them have the same subcontractor to drive these piles in. And I think yeah, some of the comments at the pre-bid meeting related to that. They sort of said, well, I mean, if we're all gonna have the same prime, I mean, if we're all gonna have the same sub, what difference does it make to you guys? And so I think a lot of people felt that they wouldn't have a competitive chance, so didn't want to waste their time. But yeah, Adrian.
Yeah, so, it was certainly a great turnout at the pre-bid versus who pulled plans. And who pulled plans could be a host of individuals that may actually not even have any ultimate goal of bidding on the project. However, they are very interested, whether it be a vendor. There are several communication companies that will track projects and then, post items. So you usually have a very broad spectrum of individuals that will pull plans, and anyone's allowed to do it. So then you get down to the pre-bid meeting, which is certainly a more fine-tuned group of individuals that still may consist of additional individuals outside of who will be bidding on the project. Myself signed in on the pre-bid sheet because I was an attendee. My project manager, Kyle, Tony. So there were others at the pre-bid that necessarily weren't going to be bidding on the project, including subcontractors to potential primes. So one of the critical subcontractors, and at that point, we weren't sure if there was a prime or a subcontracting component to the company that does retain several of these Geiken silent pilers. And they were, there with 3 individuals, that are all from Blue Iron. So that's how your list kind of unfolds.
So how successful do we think the 4 bids that we ended up with? Is that a successful process, or would we wish we'd had more, or how do you evaluate that?
Exactly, yes. So good question. So because of the selective equipment for installation, these contractors all knew that Blue Iron was going to be involved with this contract.
You can almost make the case Blue Iron's, selected who they want to work with.
Correct. So we do know, based on the bid results, that Blue Iron still provided numbers to several contractors, and that's great. And all of them were very close on that one particular bid item when we analyzed the results.
But they're not though. I mean, unless it's embedded in these lines. I mean, there's quite a big of variance in the, line 5, 6, 7, and 8. You would think it's the same contractor.
Between the contractor, or is this the opinion of cost for the project?
I'm just looking at the line by line breakdown.
Must be in the bid tabulation.
Okay, yeah, so
I'm sure it's in a more detailed tabulation, but where you'd expect to see.
My bad, I'm sorry, I didn't have I thought that was on the.
Yeah, I mean, where you would expect to see some consistency among them all would be alignment A, alignment B, alignment C, where the structural steel sheet piles are being driven, basically line 5, 6, and 7. And part of, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't see right now, but
to jump in, I 100% see what you're saying, and it is a bit of a head scratcher about why Valentine have 2.3 million, whereas the other contractors, I think, are more closely converged at between 1.6 and 1.8 million.
Quick question, are we, at this point, we're not even discussing Valentine's numbers, or do you want to discuss they're way high.
No, I know. I mean, well, just with 4 on the page, and I understand, you may want to just mention why you knocked off Corcus.
Yes, yeah, definitely, I was coming to that, yeah.
Okay, so they knocked off Corcus, they didn't really follow the process.
Yeah, was that like an administrative oversight by Corcus and they just forgot to sign something, or was it like a substantial, they didn't complete something important?
It was, I think, if it was me, if it was my company, I would be very frustrated, because it's a very minor detail when you're filling out a form, but in an RFP, it's significant, and it basically the frustration for us too is that we were aware that Corcus had downloaded those addenda, and so when they filled in their form saying that they did not acknowledge the addenda, basically.
I mean, but in the city's defense, in our broader legal defense of this is also that when and if they're not acknowledging those two addenda, which we can't verify that it's in their budget, and they'll perform the work according to the specs that you laid out.
Exactly.
If it's material change.
Which is why you have to sort of eliminate that.
Right.
There's no way to have them acknowledge the addenda after the fact. It was too late at that point, after the envelopes have been opened, is that right?
It would have been basically, yeah. I think that would have resulted in protests from the other bidders. Basically that they didn't follow procedures and then were being given an allowance for to correct items in their bid. Yeah, and I mean, I think ultimately the city attorney weighed in on it, and yeah, it was quite clear that this was the only option. Yeah. Luckily for us, the next bidder was very close in price for the total.
I mean, but on those, my question was those install the sheet pile. Now you go from, even if you take out Valentine, there's a $300,000 swing on line 5
Between,
between Thompson and Gordon.
and Thompson being the third, that's why they were in third place.
No, but I'm saying, if the same subcontractor is providing the service, maybe there's more detail there that I'm not seeing.
Because they are carrying costs of unforeseens for covering a sub. So guaranteed, Thompson is a more local contractor from Novato, and they may or may not have worked with Blue Iron as much, but I do know that both Corpus and Gordon Ball both work with them quite often, and that is a reflection in Gordon Ball's number, is that they have a very good understanding and operation for their subcontractor, which is carrying 75% of this project weight here. That is the way I see it.
A related question, what is the ultimate nature of our agreement with this contractor? Is it a guaranteed max? What factors, you mentioned that in your review of references, that one of the things you got back about Gordon Ball in particular was that they were able to finish the project on time and on budget. What are the opportunities, or what are the negative opportunities to be off budget for us? I mean, is this a guaranteed max? Is this a fixed price? What happens? Certainly I understand client-driven change orders or material-driven change orders, but is that what can drive this into an overage situation?
Yes, and it's really, and Adrian, definitely please do chime in here, but my understanding is that they base their estimate of costs or their price on the plans provided and information provided. If other if they get out to the site and they start digging and there's something else down there other than sand and rock, for example, that causes delays and changes, then costs can change. Yeah, and
Some.
Most of them, yeah, and then some of the units are stated, you do a square foot for the sheet pile, but primarily they are either single units or total or lump sum. So each are the square footage is on the sheet pile, which is to that, and it's a furnish and install, so it's a completed system.
On the adjacent repair that was completed a few years ago, were there many change orders associated with that project?
Not one.
And did it come in on budget?
Well, that one was it was not the same development of that project based on the situation, because it was more of a observation that was made with Foth and Miller Pacific and Stetson during the H&H study in 2019 for the shoreline resiliency for both shoreline and San Rafael and beach. So that was when it was prompted and the wall was showing significant signs of failure. So that was what prompted that project. So it certainly was in line with pricing, and there was no additional inflated costs due to expedited time frame. Blue Iron came in well under, because they had a unique perspective on the installation of sheets with just cutting edge technology. So they were able to complete the project faster than other companies. So,
and can you confirm my understanding as well that it would go both ways as well? So if less materials are used, for example, than anticipated, calculated the square footage, then that is what's billed to the city as well, invoiced.
Yeah, I mean, they're, you know, this is what they're expecting and they're gonna procure sheets. Like it's the
Right.
first thing that has to
So-
happen, so.
Right, so as far as the sheets go, that would be a single kind of bulk order, I guess.
Oh, yeah, and they're
Yeah.
gonna jump on that as soon as possible, just because of the lead time and getting into a roll, because these sheets very well may not be on the ground yet.
Okay, so yes, specific to sheets, yeah, okay.
Mhm.
I just know that, I mean, you know, with paving, for example, if, you know, for whatever reason, it turns out that it's a few tons less than expected.
There should be
charge
put it
for
at the
the-
cusp, absolutely, and that's
Yeah.
what's important, just for keeping a track of, you know, all those things, but yeah, we'll
Yeah.
certainly do that, and the good thing that we have going for us is. The knowledge base of both Gordon and Blue Iron is that they're a straightforward contractor. They work well together, so the mere fact that they are a well-oiled machine. Is going to have, you know, it's gonna just, you know. Assist tremendously versus, you know, other subs that may or may not have, that well of a communication,
Yeah.
you know, so.
And then also, yeah, just to add, if there are complications, you know, it's the city, you know, through its engineering team would have to basically approve any changes like that, any changes to the scope. So cost would be a part of that decision. So if, you know, if there's a huge change, because of, you know, some unforeseen circumstance that resulted in a big change in cost somewhere, there would be a decision that the city would weigh, in terms of the project as a whole.
What we do know is that we had very little issues whatsoever with a significant section of Beach Road several years ago. We saw very bland questions from contractors. The bids came in without carrying costs of which we have no idea how this is gonna go down. So those were all really good signs of a well-designed bid package from both the technical side as well as the opinion of cost. It was right in line with what we, you know, we're hoping to see. We're just very excited we didn't see things as a huge.
So the lowest bid, it's Gordon Hall, not Norman Hall, right? I think in your memo, you.
Yeah, right,
Gordon,
sorry,
yeah.
for some reason I kept,
So.
I think I told them Herman Ball at one point as well. It's like-
So you, the experience they've had, but we have not worked with Gordon Ball before as a city.
They are a large contractor, so there's a very good chance that they wouldn't have probably been worked on any. They're typically a large scale commercial contractor. I don't know if Julian, if anything else to add. But I do know of that nature because they do a lot of municipal work.
Okay, I don't know, but I don't know the company. Is it a public company or a privately held company? And
I'm not sure, and or if it's a member owned, yeah, we'd have to, you know, have to look into that, what about, there was a level of analysis required for this review.
But this is, they're a large company, there's many projects, that's not a household name, I've never heard of.
No,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, I haven't heard of them either. I don't know if they're nationwide. I don't know if they're that.
No,
big.
they're not. I do know that they do a lot of work with PG&E. They do a lot of public utility work. So they understand the public process. And I do know again that they work with Blue Iron quite a bit for projects. And a lot of times Gordon Ball is the prime for PG&E projects where Blue Iron is their son.
Yeah, their references were I thought very good. The projects that they highlighted were very similar to this. They all involved installing sheet pile in locations, a lot of locations with water, riverbanks and boat launches and these kind of situations. And one of the project managers that I spoke to from, I think it was the Santa Clara Water District, said that they were also in very close proximity to homes, and that they performed everything that they needed to with vibration monitoring and that kind of equipment. So they're definitely familiar with this type of work. Yeah.
There were nearby projects too, right, in Bay Area and in California.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. right, well, so, okay, where was I? Addenda, yeah, okay, so the addenda were required to be acknowledged, and one contractor didn't, as we know.
Is there, and I understand the strict nature of the bid process. We're not obligated to take anything, just from being devil's advocate, right?
Correct.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
we can say, because you're above what our expected cost will be, we're not obligated to take anything off.
Yes, yeah.
Because it's still subject to, city approval. But you, I mean, there's a number of line items, 10, 12, and 15, for example, where they are higher than everybody else. And I know that it's the discrepancies and uniqueness of that individual contracting approach and their sensitivity to that particular line item, I can imagine. But you can't go back to them and say, we'd like these three items to be reconsidered or looked at. Does this municipal process allow for that or no?
No, yeah, unfortunately not, because of the RFP process. Everybody uses the same parameters for their costing, and the final price can't be changed before the contract is awarded. After the contract is awarded, then there can be some negotiation with the contractor. The contractor is awarded at that price, but change orders can be generated by the city that change the scope of work. And that's often in negotiation.
It would be illegal. I mean, I'm just saying, because we have to, separate decision by the city is to appropriate more money for this. Right. So that's not an insignificant ask. So it would be against this process and perhaps municipal law, I don't know, that you can't go to them and say, you were the low bidder after we've excluded one, full transparency, you're the low bidder. But you're still above our budget. We can't award the contract unless you were to reconsider these three line items, which you're 10% above the competitors. Would you consider to do so? You can't do that?
Adrian,
Good guess. Yes. So, and just so you know that we have discussed that angle, because in a public contract, that's kind of where you go next. You look to VE or value engineer some of your items, and where you do not take away, or we don't want to adjust or go back to the design team to say we need to change how we go about getting this design completed. It is maybe a reduction of overall footage, and we can't, there's a very good chance that the contractor is going to be willing to negotiate because they want this project, and that's for certain.
But if by your process, if you award the contract at this price, what reason do they have to negotiate? Other than a change in scope.
It's not as easy as looking you're $80,000 more than the competitor, so why can't you do it for their cost? Because there are so many different moving mechanics. We don't know what the other contractor may or may not have had, or if they underbid that.
But at this point, then we don't care. Realistically, we don't care. I mean, if we're now one-to-one with these folks and we want to award it, then we don't do it. I get where you're going with this. I'm just saying that we have an added obstacle here, that we've got to get this money from the city and ultimately from our residents. And that's not something the city council is going to love to vote on and be comfortable with. Right. And the way you propose to do it is to put off other projects, other lanes, other maintenance projects, other capital improvements, or finding it in this broader budget, whether it's contingency or things like this, which is probably possible, but depending on what you find out there.
Yeah, no, for sure. 300,000 for Belvedere is a big.
Well, let's shelve that aspect of it for now, because if and when we go there, there's other things to talk about, certainly.
I would just add, it's a competitive public bidding process, and so you've provided all the parameters in the contract documents, and these contractors have put their best foot forward, so to speak. This is what they're proposing to do, and I would say you're not really one-to-one with anybody until the contract is awarded.
But they also know your estimate going in. I mean, it's coming from the private, construction world. That's just lunacy to me. But
Well,
I get it.
If you attempt to negotiate with one contractor before awarding the contract, all the other ones say, well, how come you didn't come to us? We could do it too, and it just, it sort of unravels the whole process.
I get it, I get it.
yeah, and I mean, to your point, you lose all your leverage if you've already signed a contract with them. But I think, I mean, in my experience, and maybe you guys can chime in on this, you know, contractors are generally willing to talk. You know, they're that if you say, you know, by the way, you know, we've got everything signed, but this you know, finances are very tight for us, and we would like to find ways to reduce the costs. We may want to reduce the scope somewhere. But we did notice in your bid that, you know, these were much higher than other people's. And
Okay.
are you able to, you know,
Yeah.
kind of share with us what the, you know?
Because we could always say, well, we're not gonna, either ball you reduce by this amount and we'll award it to you, otherwise we will award it to nobody and we won't go forward and we'll do another RFP, we'll rebid the whole thing and let them, it's a little bit of a, you know, put that on the table with them. If they say they won't, then we just put the RFP out again, and start the process again.
I don't think you can,
Well,
I don't think you can do
Well,
that.
why not? Why,
It's public I mean, I'm not,
Well,
you know, contract.
you change the scope, you change the scope, I mean,
You-
modestly, or the timing. No, because realistically, if we choose not to do this now, realistically speaking, at this point in time, even with the same scope in a rebid process or modified it slightly, we missed the 26 window.
If you miss the 26 window, it's not gonna get any less expensive knowing, you know,
I get
that's
that.
for sure. And the re-solicitation process, what we've done is certainly has a cost that isn't gonna necessarily, you know, be able to be recouped as well. And a lot of the public, you know, process has, you know, has to be, you know, completed again.
but if we don't have the money,
Yeah, no,
they
I
might
get it.
say, okay, well, we'll help you with that situation. They might say, okay.
And that's why I know that, you know, again, internally within, you know, with James, I'm trying to remember who else was on that call with Stetson, we talked about at least areas identified that we can discuss. And it was confident, we don't have specifics, you know, but there were certainly some areas to look at that we started to discuss, you know. One of them would be, you know, just essentially.
I think again, though, in accordance with the public contracting, you can't begin these negotiations until after a contractor is awarded to one of these. And so I think that's probably what the city is looking at. You either have to make the decision to award a contract.
Could we go to all of them
Board
though, and
involved.
say, this is our budget, would you like to?
I think that sort of involves reopening up the bidding process.
You can't.
I think once it's closed, you can reopen it. You would be looking at a rebid. The issue with the timing is that there's an in-water work window, June through October. And so to start the process over means we wouldn't have enough time to issue a rebid, open it all up and receive bids in order to construct this year. So rebidding the project does mean you're looking at next year, 2027.
Speaking of dates, how confident are we with the ability to start this project? First question. Second question is, what I would be afraid would happen is that there would be a delay, there would be a backlog of this particular equipment or something like that, and the contractor gets started under this price and says we have to finish it next year, and here's the cost to do so.
Well, I think they would be under contract to, you know, to complete it by October 15th, I think is what the contract says.
But just like finding a you know,
Right.
immovable
Yeah.
boulder under the ground, there's a delay with Blue Hill, is that the name? I apologize.
Blue Iron.
Blue Iron
Yeah.
that can't deliver it, it's out of their control, and they're
I
delayed a month, and they.
I mean, anything's possible, but they have agreed to perform this project by a certain date. And if not, there are liquidated damages daily that occur if they are not complete by that time frame.
Do we think we'll get this done in this timeframe? I mean,
If we're
can
ready
it,
to go,
Yeah.
permit, I mean, if we're, you know, there's.
There are a few factors that are outstanding. Yeah.
what?
So first of all, permitting. We're waiting for a BCDC permit. And they are in a review sort of stage. They have a commission meeting where it needs to be approved. and which I believe is April 29th, I think 19th or 29th, so it can only be after that. PG&E need to complete some work on Beach Road to modify their lines, their utility lines, main lines through there.
Before we get going,
Yes, yeah.
given what we've heard from PG&E, is that likely?
We ask them, we meet with them about every 2 weeks to get progress and updates from them. They assure us that it's doable to do before June. But we have no control over that or over their work.
So these dependencies, if Gordon and Ball can't get started to comfortably make the window, this contract's void then, right? We're not, because obviously the prices probably wouldn't be held for the next year.
Well, I think there's probably room to negotiate, and if they would like to keep the contract for next year, there may be some way to to keep them on board with some kind of adjustment in price related to inflation or something.
There is some flexibility built into the way this is structured. The in-water work window is a 5-month period, June through October, but the actual construction period is only 65 days. And so even if they don't necessarily have to start on June 1st, that can slide backwards, and there would still be room for them to complete this project.
And in theory, the out of water work can continue outside that window.
That's correct.
Correct. Yeah.
And so, that's the reason we did try to put this out to bid early, to get the bids early, to have a contractor under contract early, so that these scheduling and the coordination between the city, Hadley, PG&E, this can all kind of be worked out over the next several months until June, and when the construction will actually occur.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other factors, easements with temporary construction easements with the property owners on Beach Road, because the work that would need to take place on their property for this project to go ahead. I mean, the seawall actually enters their property at their property lines. So it's a couple of feet in from the property line. So the work and the structures would all be on their land. And we've met with them a few times, described the project, and we've sent over the easement agreements. So at this point, we're waiting for them to review those. And we're ready to go for the April meeting for them to have those easements approved by City Council. But we do have to wait for their signature basically on their side.
How many property owners are we talking about again?
3 property owners. And one of them has indicated that he's absolutely willing. He's just out of the country right now. So it seems like he's ready to sign as soon as he gets back. The other 2 are new owners of the property, and I think it seems like they're wanting to review the language more carefully. And
Isn't it? It's 3 properties, but 2 owners, right? There's
yes,
land
correct.
company owns one building, and the Strauss Group owns the other 2.
Yes, yeah, and those other 2 are owned, I think, on paper by 2 different LLCs, but it's the same people who.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from a financial perspective, I'm looking at this overall project budget relative to appropriations funding at the top. We're looking at that 3.475 line, of which includes $280,000 or so that's going to a separate contractor to do the utility work, right? So that's where we get the 300. So we have a $315,000 variance on that line if we take this bid from Gordon and Ball, right?
Yeah, it's without knowing, we don't have the exact number for the contracts of the other amount.
I'm just using the 279, and the way you got your 315 was the 279 plus the 35 over this number.
Correct, yeah, with a little bit of,
Yeah, yeah, to be sure.
flexibility to, in case that 279
So,
is.
I'm just writing 315 in parentheses next to the 3475, which means
Right.
on this
Yes.
page, we're 315 over budget on that particular line.
Yeah.
And you've discussed this with Helga, and your recommendations with Robert as well, is to handle this either within this $4.6 million total project expenditures budget, finding it somewhere, whether it's coming out of your hide, or I mean, from a project management perspective, or somewhere along this line, environmental mitigation, somewhere through here, you think you might be able to find some money. That's option one, right? Just confirming that's what that means.
Yeah.
And option two is in the broader public works budget, capital improvement projects, whether it's paving or whether it's a retaining wall or whether it's a lane improvement or something like that.
Yeah.
Finding that money in that over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and there are two components to that too. So there are existing CIP funds that overlap with some of the work in this project. So paving, for example, we have a CIP fund for paving. And that could cover the cost of the paving restoration instead of using this account for those costs.
Use that account.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it.
Yeah, exactly. And the sidewalk. Yeah, exactly.
And we have not invaded the contingency on this budget.
Well, with that, so with that over,
I'm just saying on paper right now, we're talking about that one line item having a negative variance. But that 383 arguably still exists if we know we have 4.6 in our fund at this point.
Yes, right, yes. So yeah, sorry, I took me a minute there, but yeah, basically, that would restore that contingency amount.
Yeah, so it has, so, however we decide, you may want to work with Helga. I would suggest if this is to be recommended to the city council, I wouldn't go in with just a $315,000 overage here. I would front it by saying exactly what you've talked about before, that we're going to approach this, if we award this contract, with diligent approach to value engineer, to line item look at things, to recognize this is over our budget and see where we can get some potential savings out of this contract. May deal nothing, but that's an approach, and we certainly should do that. I would also try to identify specifically where you think this money can come from. Meaning, if you have known expenditures that you think are going to be less than what you have up here anyway. For example, if you know that, the environmental mitigation costs are not $100,000, but they're going to be $80,000, much like we had with the repair over there on Beach Road. That came in less than we thought we were going to come in. So I'm not saying we take that money, but I'm saying if you know already where we are, identify it.
Right.
Because you could probably say, of that we know we've got $35,000 in city planning paving, sidewalks for the next 25, 26, 26, 27. We have $45,000 in road paving for the 25, 26, and 27 budget that we can apply to this.
Right.
And our assessment is that won't damage our overall value of our infrastructure around the city. So we can apply those small amounts of those larger budgets. We can also apply $200,000 of the contingency to that, and that's where we think we can make up this money and still retain the 4.630.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
You need to present it in a fashion like that.
Right. Yeah, and that is definitely what we had planned. Was be able to be specific about about how this is possible. And there would be council approval for some of those changes as well.
Well, they'll have comments, and they'll probably stress, we really want you to push the value engineering and really sharpen your pencil on the scope, once you have the contractor selected, to keep within the appropriate public bidding process, so that we can make sure we make this project as tight and not only timely, but also it does our base minimum needs for the money that we're spending, so we get as much value as we possibly can.
Right. Yeah. I hear you, and I think we all feel that way. We definitely, I know, and I definitely know Robert does, and everybody is.
Figure out how to.
Yeah, I mean, it's we all want a project that's delivered on time and under budget. You know, some of this law that we have to comply with is a little cumbersome and frustrating. But you know, from the time that we start meeting with the contractor, there will definitely be you know, a lot of emphasis on keeping costs, you know, within budget. And if I mean, you know, and to be fair, I think the contractors probably get that from everybody all the cities that they work with. But yeah, and I mean, you know, some of the costs, you know, and I can point to some on here that we anticipate not having to pay, for example, environmental mitigation costs. BCDC may ask us to, you know, mitigate for much more than we are already. But it seems like they're not, in our discussions with them so far, they haven't said that they will, and they've accepted our submission with the mitigation that we've proposed. So you know, for example, there's potential for that full 100,000 to be available, to be moved into another sort of road. Yeah, and then you know, land surveying and mapping, for example, that's another item that we haven't had to.
Yeah, you know, you understand, I mean, just as you prepare it,
Right.
Sharpen your pencil in because you know, come in solution oriented to the council.
Right, yeah, okay. Yeah, appreciate that.
Are you guys broadly, I mean, you've sat down with them, you've met with them. Are you comfortable with them being a partner in, if not that, it doesn't sound like it's a big job for them, but it's a big job for us.
Yeah, no, we haven't actually met with them.
Okay.
Yeah, we wanted to, but you know, I spoke to Gordon Ball yesterday by phone. And but we had wanted to have this meeting before we, you know, provided any kind of official communication to the other contractors. And it's obviously not going to be an easy phone call with Orcus, but yeah, that's.
So Peter, I mean, so if we make a recommendation, we're making a recommendation knowing it's higher than the budget, although with your mitigating recommendations, it may be lower, but it sounds like it's worth discussing among the city council anyway. I mean, it's not so far out there.
Absolutely.
It's achievable potentially.
Well, I mean, I'm sure maybe Glenn, you less so than us, but we're just all reacting to that like public process is, you know, I wouldn't pick my house with that process, you know, it's just a sort of frustrating, but I think you need to present it that, you know, this is the process and it's not unusual to have our estimates be a little bit short of the in fact, it's the dynamic of the process to almost have that be the norm. But there is an opportunity, and I do believe it's worth the time because we have a lot to do between PCDC, PG&E, and the easements, which would at the end of the day, if those don't come through, you know, this project's not going to go ahead anyway. So work aggressively with the selected contractor and it's not like we have much of a choice. We have to choose the non-eliminated low bid, right?
Right. Yeah, and I think
If we choose any.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, exactly. And I think that, you know, if there was another close bid, for example, and you know, there was a way to parse through the qualifications, then we might be having a different conversation. But I think, you know, we have one apparent low bidder. The next one is, you know, 500,000, you know, higher.
I touched on this last meeting too, and I know this will come up in the city council, and it's hard to weigh this against known risk of failure there. But is this something that, you know, in a year or two might be better pricing? I'm not saying non-inflationary pricing, but just better pricing relative to the war, the supply chain issues, steel prices, gas, petroleum prices.
Good question. And currently, we actually do a lot of supply chain analysis for our projects nationwide. So right now, I do know that most of the sheet pile is coming from US, so no tariffs. So that has not been impacted. Currently, the price of oil has not impacted the sheet pile pricing. And that was something that, once we started to see what was happening and around, and that's typically one of the first triggers is the price of oil will just start to impact everything for production, specifically sheet pile. So at this point, we don't foresee any changes, and we're that close that it would be not a major escalation. We may have more impacts if we push the project and, without, we're talking, 2 years down the road, but probably.
Even these folks gave these bids, there's wars and going, the price escalations have been 2 or 3 weeks, right? 3.5 weeks. Would they come back and say there's a 10% premium based on recent events?
I do know that there is a level of, they are entitled to that, but I don't know the specifics personally to what that is.
They could do that. They could come back with a.
I'm not sure to the specifics, so it all depends on, I think, on the specifics of the contract. I'm just not fully aware if they are, entitled to that.
It'll be good to know. I mean, as far as whether the contract.
I was assuming
Typically
not.
not.
You can't ask them to lower their price. They can't ask us to raise the price.
No.
This is what the contract would be.
Yeah. And that's, they're hanging their hat on that and knowing that, okay, well, we get an award when, supposed to, that we, move specifically on the sheets. That'll be the big thing. So.
I mean, if it's legitimately not a cost of theirs, they could choose not to take the contract, right? Or are they obligated to take this contract?
Well, they're up, well, a bit, they have, Julian, you can speak to this as well, but yeah, no, they're obligated, that's where that's where we have a bond. The bid bond.
Well, so this committee, we were gonna make a recommendation. It sounds like the staff's recommendation is to recommend city council to accept the bid of Gordon Ball. Are we ready to decide on that with the committee? I don't know whether we further questions or discussion.
I would edit that a bit in the sense that it's not this committee's decision to go ahead with the project, right? From a broader risk perspective, from a broader financing perspective, and from a broader operations perspective. But in the event the council, as clearly said to us at a retreat, hence the formation of this committee, is we want this project to go forward, and should it go forward, we want you to do the proper due diligence, the proper transparency to make sure that it's done in a fair, equitable manner and that you're getting as much value for the process as possible. I think that's what we should say, is that given the process and given the understanding of the project and the scope, this is the best contract for the job, and given the conditions that we talked about a second ago, that you're going to post awarding the contract, value engineer, look for potential values in the scope itself, and here are ways we can potentially mitigate the cost in the existing budgets or other budgets. That's the recommendation to choose Gordon and Ball.
I think it's,
We're not saying the project should go ahead with this. Ultimately, 5 people up there with public comment are going to decide whether this $4.6 million is something the city sees a priority for the next, year and a half to mitigate this risk.
So it sounds like it's on the understanding that there will be aggressive I don't want to say reduction in costs. But
I mean, the people up there, myself and I mean, they're going to say, find a place, figure out this 315, right? We'd rather not have that. We'd rather you, get it out of the project one way or the other. Either sharpen your pencil from a scope perspective, value engineering, or if you have to do exactly what you guys talked about is take a portion that's responsible of a paving and a sidewalk budget or other public works budgets and apply it to this, recognizing that you're stealing from Peter to pay Paul, but be confident that you're doing that in a balanced way, that you're not jeopardizing Paul in that scenario. They're going to want to see that information.
Right. Yeah.
And just be confident that you thought about it, so that if you're not able to lower the price, that we don't have a, day one, $315,000 hit to this budget. You don't want to go to a project day one with that kind of, budget deficit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I can help you with the staff report too. I mean, don't stress about that. Between Robert, you and me and Helga, we can figure out how to write that up.
Yeah, that I really appreciate that. Yeah, and I think part of the, one of the questions that we'd have for you is whether you think, where would be a more appropriate, place to look for, savings. And yeah, so, existing CIP funds versus scope of the projects and, these kind of.
Well, that's gonna come from, I mean, yes, the city can start with, what parks and lanes, what broader public works infrastructure are you doing that, one, you don't think you're gonna get to? Every year we don't get to projects, right? That happens all the time.
Yeah.
So figure out which are the ones we don't think we're gonna get to and roll that into 27, 28, or 26, 27, or in 26, 27, 27, 28. And that's an appropriation that potentially could be used for this.
Right.
Recognizing you're just kicking a can down the road, it's not a savings, but it's a new public works budget next year.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And if through your personal or a professional assessment, that project can be deferred for that amount of time. I mean, that's gotta be part of it as well.
Yes, exactly. And I think I actually didn't get to that part of when I was talking about the CIPs and the paving.
It's gotta be based on some assessment.
Well, exactly, yeah. I mean, because there are, as you say, projects that roll over every year, and there are also, sort of forecast funds for different projects that won't be used for one reason or another, and can be pushed off to the following year. Yeah.
And we just see if there are any, I see Patrick has joined, if there are comments from Patrick or any, I don't know if there are any other.
Robert, yeah.
Or Rob, or Glenn, or anyone else who might not have had a chance to speak about this. And Robert, Patrick, Glenn, and.
Hey, I can go ahead and comment. I've just been listening to to the whole conversation, but on this last part, we did actually meet Tony, myself, and Helga and take a look at our current budget in terms of rollover, and then what we're looking at for next year in terms of projects that have funds assigned, but not necessarily a project earmarked for those funds. So I think there, Peter and Tony, to your point, there is enough flexibility in the next, this current year and next year. We need to, we can find a way to pay for this 315. But the broader point is let's work really hard and try and bring the cost down, which is of course what we'll present to City Council.
Yeah, 100. So, and this is just, Robbie, you've just reminded me, another thing that we would like to emphasize is that we have no plans to request more funds from reserves, from the general fund or critical infrastructure reserves. All the cost savings would come from existing and forecast funds and from the project itself. Yeah,
That's a bit. That's sort of splitting hairs because it's.
Well, yeah,
the
right.
whole
It's
city
gonna be
general
allocated,
fund,
it all
right?
comes from the city.
And
Anyway,
all the same fund, so it's just a matter of
right,
whether it's in an existing appropriation or not.
right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can't print money, so it's at the end of the day, it's coming from something, or we're not doing something.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We're deferring something, or yeah.
But I think Robert said it exactly right, and
Yeah,
we can endeavor to make that presentation, and I'll certainly be part of that and help explain it to the council as we go forward.
yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, well, if there's no further discussion, it seems like we should try and bring our committee's recommendation to a vote, and I think the movement is that this subcommittee will vote to, I guess, the vote along with the staff has made the proper recommendation to the city council, subject to the adjustments and sort of financing and payment. And I guess we're not quite endorsing that the committee should do this, but the committee supports the staff's recommendation.
I think you said it exactly right, that we support the recommendation of the city staff, that Gordon Ball is the contractor to select, and that we encourage the staff in the presentation to city council to focus on value engineering and scope considerations, and then identify where the surplus $350,000 can come from within existing budgets.
So may I move into the vote on that? Second.
I can second that.
And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I think it's just the three of us
Yeah.
voting. So.
Right, well, thank you, yeah, and hopefully the speaker caught all of the, caught all of the language in there. It's much better than the last one, I know that.
Yeah.
So the microphone, not the speaker, yeah.
And so this may be the final time we'll have to meet, I guess, maybe subject to. what
Yeah, I don't
the city
know.
council-
Robert, remind me, do we think it makes sense to, because there's still, as you mentioned, between BCD, CPG and the easements and the ultimate, issuance of permits and getting going. And after all, this committee is designed to be the eyes and ears of the community, just to understand and, either anecdotally or publicly make a comment that, we've been aware of what's going on. I'd suggest another, and, if not one or 2 at monthly intervals, just to check in where you are in this process. So that the next month, you presumably would have received city council approval, you presumably would have engaged and if not contracted with Gordon and Ball and had those initial discussions and have a tentative timeline for the project. That would be
So
valuable
about a
to
month's
know.
time from
I
now.
would think, unless you think that's too soon.
No, I think there would be quite a few, there'd be a few updates in a month's time. And we can possibly, change the date if we need to, if we're waiting for some, some decision or something.
Robert, that's not surpassing
I-
the charter or design of this subcommittee? That's a
No,
question.
the subcommittee is ad hoc. We can't exist forever. But if we have a clear ending point, which may align, with the duration of the project and maybe at the closeout, we'll have a final report that goes back to council. I think that's still within the scope. Yeah. I would agree. I think it'd be good to meet in another month.
And actually, maybe throughout until the project is completed.
Absolutely, we
Yeah.
discussed even having maybe one committee member available for whether it be every construction meeting, but at least is certainly up to speed, whether it's even also a follow-up after our construction meeting with the contractor. I'm under the impression we'll be doing those weekly. Could be a bi-weekly check-in or something of that nature, but I think that it's very important to keep you guys in the loop throughout the process too. We'll also have the Hadley contract happening, it sounds like.
So you'll bring this to council in April?
Yes, yeah, that is the plan.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so April 13th. And yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town for a couple of weeks here, but I have the draft staff report and, I think the fiscal impact section is the part that we need to drill down into.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, that and hopefully the construction easements and maybe even a contract for the other portion of the work if that can all happen in April. That would be first prize.
There's no bid requirement for that? Is that the threshold or something?
There would typically be, yes, but there is, in this case, what's called a sole source justification for this contractor because they have specialized knowledge of that.
Because they installed it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And but that's these are all updates that can come at
Yeah,
the next
no, that makes
meeting
sense,
for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll plan on having a meeting probably late April after the city council meeting and after progress has been made. And then we'll
Yeah.
schedule periodically after that.
Would you like to pencil in a date now that we can, would you
Yeah,
prefer to wait and have a poll maybe further down the line? If we sort of have a target date that we're, can then confirm, I think, I don't know, for me, that always seems to work better.
so maybe the week of the 27th.
I'm gone that whole week.
Are you here the week of the 20th?
I'm the 20th.
I'm here the week of the 20th.
When does city council act?
You said it was the 13th?
13th, yeah.
So it's good.
So that's a week after the city council meeting.
But you may not have made much progress with the contract.
Right, yeah, it might be a little soon.
Want to shoot for beginning of May, like the week of the 4th?
Early May might be better.
I'm away the week before, so I can do remotely, but.
And there's always, we can there's no reasons for
Yeah.
email communication and
And
correspondence.
I could join a Zoom call.
Or even a remote call if that's, I don't foresee a
I guess, do we, if we're not voting on things necessarily, we don't have to all be present, correct? Or, I don't know what, or can we not have a meeting?
It's not a Brown Act, I don't believe, right, Robert? I understand. I don't believe this is a Brown Act. So I mean.
If this same group is meeting, if this same group is meeting, meaning the core group that we have here today, then it is a Brown Act meeting. If it's just one person assigned to meet with staff, then it's not.
Well, I guess our question, Robert, is if we couldn't do this as a complete remote meeting. Right, we need to have a quorum.
Yeah, then a majority of the members have to be in person. It worked out today because only one person, member of the subcommittee was connected remotely.
Do we want to shoot for, say, Wednesday the 6th, and if John can make.
I would be remote, but I'm happy to do that remotely. So.
Yeah, sure, let's do that.
Okay.
That's May the 6th.
2 p.m. or sorry, 1 p.m.
Yeah, if that time works for everyone. Keep it consistent, I guess.
Okay.
Larry asked me to raise one point.
Yes.
A design point.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So this is addressed to Stetson. Has to do with the height of the sheet piling. Larry's question to you apparently was misunderstood. He's asking why not maintain the level is same as the existing sheet piling.
Oh, the 2019 sheet piling, the top of it.
Maintaining that height.
It was primarily to save costs, to not have a higher sheets and more concrete backfill, and any fill you put along the wall requires a mitigation from the jurisdictional agency.
So the existing sheet piling is the new sheet piling.
It's approximately a foot lower.
You're cutting it off. You're cutting off longer pieces anyway.
Maybe. I mean, it depends where they drive it to.
Well, and I can chime in actually.
Driving in the.
These aren't being driven. These aren't being driven. Yeah, they're being pressed. There's no driving.
There will be a,
Well,
it's not, we did design it, so there's it'll be a gradual transition, so it's not gonna be an abrupt, 90-degree change. There is gonna be a transition, over a period of a horizontal distance, so.
And the 2019 repair has one as well. There's a little slope down to 2 different elevations. But to add, Julian, to the reasons to keep it down. One is the permitting, because permitting agencies were happy to see that all the pile would be kept below the height of where the sea lettuce reaches, because that would be colonized much more quickly by sea lettuce and barnacles and so on. So the lower, the better for them as far as habitat goes. And then also aesthetics. Right now, from the homes along there or from the water, it's less visible the lower down it is. So that, along with the embedding the gravel into the top of the concrete along there, sort of the permitting and somewhat for aesthetics.
So we're talking about a foot.
About a foot, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, and if you look at the 2019 piles, there's a point on the piles where the barnacles stop, and then above that is just the metal. So the idea here was that this would be completely below that level of habitat.
Is there inherently a for the people viewing it from the water side or from the homes out there, obviously, I mean, there is an aesthetic appeal to having it consistent as consistent as possible, but you're saying there's no structural need for it, because that note we got today clearly said that the structural requirements are really down below as opposed to above. No structural need for it. My biggest concern is it would add additional mitigation measures and potentially hold up the BCDC permitting process. you guys need to sort of give us a thumbs up and thumbs down this. I mean, I see Larry's point that it might look better if
Right.
it was less
It was all the same.
jig-joggy.
Yeah.
But not enough to delay or the project or to have a cost consideration or have, permitting issues with, the lead agency there.
Right, yeah.
Or even we can do it from an environmental perspective, whether our review covered that scope. But then again, we're leaning on the broader review, right? So that doesn't matter. That should matter. The environmental review shouldn't matter, right?
No, so that it wouldn't, I don't think, impact the EIR if it was, if what you're talking about is the 2019 sheet files, because I think that's probably what was kind of envisioned as a sort of a
Comparable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know, Julian, if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, it would require going back to all the agencies. It would be more fill in the jurisdictional waters, so we'd have to restart or kind of renegotiate with all the agencies, and there would be a cost increase.
Yeah.
If I could chime in here too, from what we've talked about on this project from the beginning, we always envisioned, I think, this aesthetic improvement that we're talking about, whether that be a cap or riprap or some other kind of concealment method for hiding that, the steel sheet piles and the concrete, that would always be coming as kind of a phase 2. And it's just a matter of when we can get that done in terms of, perhaps the larger project or when funds are available. But, the structural component, holding up the wall, and, keeping the cost down low is always our primary target, at least in the short term.
Okay, I'll tell Larry, thank you.
Yeah, he raised it last month also, and I think. Yeah, you should, I don't know if Larry got that note you sent around today.
I think with the response from Stetson, I think he must have, because I think that's what you might be referring to then, for the as far as the misunderstanding. I think that's maybe what he was referring.
Well, he brought it up last month too, so I think he may or may not.
Right.
My point is he may or may not have seen that note, and I thought that note explained it well.
Right, yeah, and I mean, I misunderstood it too, actually, because I thought he was talking about having it higher up, sort of to support the wall.
I think he just wanted to match what was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we can adjourn unless there's any further comments.
Thank you so much.
So May 6th.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Robert.